Hi, my name is John, and welcome back to my channel. I'm with Good Burger Reviews, and I'm doing a special presentation. We are in segment 4 of the most influential movies of all time in horror. This will be the final chapter of these installments and of these videos. We've covered them all, and there's just a small batch left. I'm looking forward to going over some of these final ones that have basically graced us with the cinema in the last 20 years and are still influential in the short time that they have been around. As we get back into the list, we're rewinding a couple years back. The year is 2002. The movie is The Ring. The Ring was released in October of 2002. It is directed by Gore Verbinski. It is starring Naomi Watts, Martin Henderson, and Brian Cox. The plot is a young journalist must investigate a mysterious videotape which seems to cause the death of anyone who watches it a week after they have viewed it. So The Ring is another one that in the wake of Scream was very meta, very hip and cool for its time. And it also was combined with another thing that was becoming common at the time, which was Japanese horror was making its way onto the scene here in America in a very popular way. And The Ring was one of the first, or if not the first, one to reach popularity. It also takes a form of an urban legend. So the whole videotape story, the whole urban legend type plot line of if you watch the videotape, you'll die in a week. Did you hear the story? In the opening scene, the two girls are talking about, oh, there's a videotape, and if you watch it, you die. Legend. I kind of did think this one was just a little bit past the prime, being based on VHS tapes. And VHS tapes at this point in time were starting to really be phased out. We were in the early 2000s, we were in the DVD phase, just becoming on Blu-ray. Digital wasn't quite a thing yet, but it was a very much time of change. VHSs were still around, they were still used, but they were really getting phased out. But that didn't stop this girl from getting her curse on the VHS tape. And that was the other part of blend. So this was like a blend of so many things, which was new and fresh at the time. So you had the whole urban legend thing blending with the whole curse thing, because this was a curse. So basically once you watch this tape, you were cursed for 7 days. And all the curse tropes and all the curse movies that followed after The Ring is what makes this movie worthy for being on this list. The Ring was very popular in its time, and it was right in the middle of many horror franchises that were popping. It's slightly after Scream, just before Saw. The Ring has its franchise as well. There was The Rings 2, which was released a couple of years later, and then a third sequel, which was released in 2017. Again, like all these movies on the list, I wouldn't be surprised if we return to The Ring at some point again. It was a remake of Ringu, which was really originated back in 1998 out of Japan. And then to follow in its wake were similar copycat themes, lots of curse movies. For example, I think of The Grudge was another big one with Sarah Michelle Gellar that followed the year afterwards, which was also a remake to a Japanese horror movie. We also had Dark Waters. There was also in some time past, and even It Follows is another one that got compared to The Ring. And even a couple years back when Smile was released in 2022, many people said, oh, it's kind of got that flavor of The Ring, at least the whole curse side of the story. And Smile is a big favorite movie of mine. and is also, Smile's too young to make this list. I feel like it's only been around going on 3 years. Hasn't been around long enough to be influential, though I think it's making its way into an influential way. It's kind of starting its own thing. It's definitely got a franchise going. Smile 3 is coming out. I just saw word of Smile 3. Another great thing about The Ring is the antagonist has become iconic. Samara, the girl who is cursed at the bottom of the well, the girl who crawls out the TV and gets you. That scene in the Ring movie is awesome. I love that scene. It just, the tension, everything in The Ring is so great. I mean, this is definitely up there in movies from that time frame as being very popular. Had I been making lists in that year, it would definitely be up there, right? With Signs for 2002 and probably my top 2. I'd have to think about which one really is my favorite. I also feel, even despite the whole VHS thing, the movie itself seems to hold up well over time. And that is why The Ring is worthy to be on this list of most influential movies of all time in horror. So the next one is going to be introducing a more modern director who will make the list again. But this one, flash forward to 2004, and we have James Wan, and the movie is Saw.
Dr. Gordon, I want to play a game.
Jigsaw killer.
Paul, find the path through the razor wire.
Technically speaking, he's not really a murderer. He never killed anyone.
Dr. Gordon, your aim in this game is to kill Adam. If you do not, then Diana will die.
He finds ways for his victims to kill themselves.
Saw is starring Gary Ills, Danny Glover, Monica Potter, and Michael Emerson. 2 men awaken to find themselves on the opposite side of a dead body, each with specific instructions to kill each other or face the consequences. These are 2 of the latest victims of Jigsaw. So with Saw, I felt like it had that modern meta influence, just like Scream. It totally was this really smart, super smart thriller with a twist ending and everything, and I loved it. I saw this one in the theater. I thought it was fabulous. I just became obsessed with it. Was obsessed with the franchise when it first came out. And what can I say about this? But this was like elevated gore, because I felt like it was extremely gory. And I was fairly young, so I was probably more into the gore then as I would be now. But there was an elevation to this one as compared to gore. And like I said with Exorcist, elevated horror wasn't really a thing just yet, at least discussed amongst horror fans the way it's discussed today. But this one had some elevated pieces in it. I mean, the characters, were smarter. There just seemed to be much more of a deep, complex storyline going on. And in it, this killer Jigsaw, the way he put people in the traps, and the traps made them. He was a smart killer, where he was like, he was very like the killer in Seven. He was trying to be like Seven. This was a Seven meets Scream type of vibe, and that's how they kind of put it in the trailers. This franchise has a huge legacy. I mean, it's only been around 20 years. It's already got 10 sequels. You know, another one where they had a final chapter, but then 3 more sequels came out. Um, that Saw has had its up and downs for sure. But I feel like besides the amount of sequels that it had, it definitely influenced movies in the decade it was released in. So 2004, so the whole second end of the early 2000s into the 20 teens, you saw so many movies that were influenced by Saw. You know, I think of The Collector, I think of Hostel, just certain movies that had either the smart element, the thriller element mixed with the gore element, and that's kind of where Saw shined. And James Wan, I mean, James Wan was he was being called a modern day Hitchcock, a modern day Carpenter, and he, as we've come to learn over the 20 years to follow since Saw, he's had some other great genre movies, you know. After he was done with the Saw franchise, he moved on to Insidious, and he did really well with that franchise as well. You know, and Insidious being kind of like a poltergeist movie. Saw is still prevalent today. There was a works for Saw 11, but sadly I heard that it might not be happening now. Saw X actually was really good. I felt like after the franchise had dipped for a while and then paused for a while, it came back with Saw X real strong. And I honestly think that's why they're struggling with Saw 11, because I don't know if they're going to be able to figure out a way to keep John Kramer in this, because John Kramer seems to be what makes Saw Saw. All the ones without him, you know, you have the Spiral one, that's not him. You have those middle Saw franchise ones, the ones that had the other guy in it, Hoffman. You know, the Hoffman ones. I mean, they're okay, but they're not as good as the Kramer one. So they may eventually pull together for Saw 11, or they just might scrap Saw 11 and go into like a Saw-like type movie, a Saw copycat movie maybe, or just something Saw-ish.
He doesn't want us to cut through our chains. He wants us to cut through our feet.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. Not anymore.
You are a drug addict. Do you think that is why he picked you?
He helped me.
Don't believe Adam's lies.
And this is why Saw, in its whole franchise, is on the list for most influential movies of all time.
Live or die.
The next one on the list of most influential movies is The Conjuring and The Conjuring universe.
It's November 1st, 1971. I'm sitting here with Carolyn Perrin, who, with her family, has been experiencing supernatural occurrences. You picking up anything in here, hon?
Something awful happened here, Ed.
What is it? Whatever Lorraine sees, feels, touches, it takes a toll on her. A little piece each time.
You have a lot of spirits in here, but there's one that I'm most worried about because it is so hateful. Look what she made me do.
Also directed by James Wan. The Conjuring is starring Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, and Lily Tomlin. This is the movie that started the whole Conjuring universe. And the Conjuring universe is basically a universe of movies that take place all in the same world, obviously, but they're all basically connected to Lorraine and Ed Warren. I think almost all of their movies are connected to them. Anyhow, I feel like this movie and this universe has been extremely influential in movies over the last decade. The Conjuring itself, the original movie, was really, really good. It just was a great demonic possession movie mixed with haunted house movie. It really stepped up the game of haunted thrillers, haunted movies. And with that, within the Conjuring universe, there's been 3 sequels. We're waiting on a 4th to come out at the end of this year. That they'd also had multiple spin-offs. The spin-offs were Annabelle. We had Annabelle Creation. We have Annabelle Comes Home. There potentially might be a 4th Annabelle. We also had The Nun and The Nun 2. And I also liked, there is also The Curse of La Llorona. So all of these take place within that universe. Many of them are directed by James Wan, but not all. So the big thing with the Conjuring universe is that they're based on true stories. All of the Ed and Lorraine's stories that are presented in these movies are based on alleged true stories. Now, it is very similar to Amityville Horror, where it's been said, is this all fact or fiction, horror or hoax, whatever it might be. The movies themselves are actually great movies, and I think the whole thing of it is that if it possibly is based on true stories, that makes it even scarier than the average made-up haunted movie. You know, The Conjuring 1 was based on the Perron family. They were out of like Rhode Island or something. You know, it was alleged that maybe that was made up. The same thing with The Conjuring 2, where it took place in England, and there was the 2 little girls in that starred in that, and then there are some YouTube videos out that show actual live footages of them in their interviews from back in the day. And to me, it definitely seems like that one definitely seemed fake. Like they were faking it. They were kind of mocking the voices and, you know, doing some sort of thing with their voices to be making funny voices for these demons that were possessing their house. But I mean, who knows? You never know with this stuff. The third Conjuring dealt with Arnie Johnson, where he committed a murder and he blamed the devil. He blamed being possessed on the devil and so forth. And then Lorraine Warren got involved with that. Now, the 4th one, I'm not so sure what the storyline is. I mean, if they've been going in order per succession, the next one should be, as far as I know, is the Smurl story. And the Smurl story was already a movie back in 2000, or back in 1991. They had like a straight-to-video called The Haunting, and it involved them. I don't know if they're going to make another movie involving the Smurls, but I loved that movie back then. It was pretty neat. Or if they're going to go in a different route, maybe they'll just go with a made-up route, or maybe there's other Ed and Lorraine Warren stories that I don't know about. But we'll find out in September for that one. Annabelle doll is also a real doll. They have in their little sanctuary basement where they keep all their conduits and stuff. It's not as creepy as the doll in the movie, but there is the doll. It's a Raggedy Ann doll. I don't know about the Nun, the whole Nun part of it. I think the Nun is pure fiction, but I liked the Nun 2, despite many people not liking the Nun 2. The Nun 1 I felt like was okay. It was a little boring. They're making a Nun 3. They're possibly making an Annabelle 4. And so forth. The Haunting in Connecticut technically is connected to this universe, even though it's not in with these movies. That was done actually before The Conjuring. But they also had Ed and Lorraine Warren was involved in that case, allegedly or supposedly. It's a New England case as well. So, I mean, if it was New England and it was ghosts and it occurred in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, then it was them. Now, since Ed passed away in 2006, and then Lorraine subsequently died in 2019, I believe, then there's no more stories for them to make on them. At the end of the day, I felt like The Conjuring and James Wan, you know, has had enough influence in the horror genre, and that people are copying The Conjuring. Many movies that have come out that are under haunted or supernatural tend to follow in James Wan's footsteps with the way, the setting, the atmosphere, the jump scares, and so forth. You know, and there's a lot of jump scares in these movies. The Conjuring universe is definitely, I wouldn't consider any of them elevated horror. It's just basically generic old school horror. At the end of the day, there's been enough of those movies in the franchise, and we'll have to...
We're headed down into the cellar where the doors just opened on its own. Give us a sign that you want to communicate with us.
Nothing.
What are you guys?
Well, we've been called ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
But we prefer to be known simply as Ed and Lorraine Warren.
There's something horrible happening in my house.
No way. I can't lose you.
There's a lady in a dirty nightgown that I see in my dreams. She's standing in front of my mom's bed.
Do you want to see him?
Yeah?
When the music stops, you see him in the mirror standing behind you.
Look what she made me do.
The last few now. These last ones I am going to kind of grab together because they are all influential in the same category. A category that I've kind of been him-hawing around about, but something that became more prevalent in the 20-teens and still very prevalent today, and that is elevated horror. And I had to do a little bit of thinking because I thought, which one really is the lead in this category? Which one really kicked it off? Which one is the one? Because there's a lot of great elevated horror movies out there right now. And I had a few in mind, a few standouts, and I thought, but were they the first? Were they the one that really started this? Or really started the bring back of elevated horror? And I think what makes an elevated horror elevated, you know, it's something that stands above the typical horror, you know, B schlockiness, you know, things that we do tend to love about traditional horror movies is the B style, the schlockiness, the comedy in it, and just the blend of all that. Where elevated horror movie says, we're going to kind of rise above some of the schlockiness and say we're going to bring some more better characters, better dramatization to it, and really try and make these movies more than just hokey fun. And, you know, I honestly like both. So, I mean, when you have one that's an elevated horror and it's really good and the characters are great and the scares are great, then I love it. But I also still love the schlocky fun ones as well. You know, and we just had a schlocky fun one, Until Dawn, Hard Eyes recently. But we've also had some elevated ones still coming strong in 2025, i.e. Sinners, the best elevated one so far. So after thinking about it, there's a few I'm going to put as influential in this category, but there's this one that really, and this is where I think this is the birth of the gripe that I've been having, and my gripe has been traumatized character that, you know, just recently had someone close to them die, and now they're going through a horrific storyline. And I thought, man, where did this really start? And I was trying to pinpoint it on The Exorcist, and I thought, was Chris McNeil traumatized? But no, I don't think so. I don't think her husband died. He wasn't in the picture. So I can't blame The Exorcist. Who am I going to blame? The Babadook. The Babadook is the one. So 2014 Babadook. This is where I think elevated horror movies really started to take off.
You can bring the boy.
I'm sick, Sam. I need help. It isn't real. It isn't real. It isn't real.
And it is the starring girl in the movie has recently lost her husband, and she's raising a young child by herself, and the young child gets into this little storybook and brings out a demon into their house. And the Babadook is a great scary movie, a great horror movie, but it's also elevated because of how grief-stricken the main star is and how her performance is in this movie that elevates it above, you know, the typical schlocky characters running around and getting chased or scared or stabbed or whatever. The Babadook is directed by Jennifer Kent. It stars Essie Davis and Daniel Henschel. A single mother plagued by violent death of her husband battles with her son's fear of a monster lurking in the house, but soon discovers a sinister presence all around her. We have the birth of a trope that's being still done to this very day. I've mentioned it at least 5 or 6 times in movies that I've watched this year. Woman in the Yard. I mean, the Woman in the Yard is basically the Babadook. You have Death of a Unicorn had a character like that. I just mentioned Drop had a character that was like that. Even Until Dawn had a character that was like that. But I would say Woman of the Yard definitely was, of all these newest ones, was trying to be more like an elevated. The rest I wouldn't consider elevated. So over the years, what movies am I going to put with the Babadook that I would say also boost this elevated category and have had the most influence since around 2014? And there are a few that I'd like to mention as well and give note, because I don't think the Babadook alone has created this subgenre and kept it going. I just think that's one of the first. I'd like to mention are Get Out from 2017 and Hereditary from 2018. Get Out is directed by Jordan Peele. It's starring Daniel Kaluuya, Catherine Keener, Bradley Whitford. Basic overview. Now that Chris and his girlfriend Rose have reached the meet the parents milestone of dating, she invites him for a weekend getaway upstate with her parents, Missy and Dean. At first, Chris reads the family's overly accommodating behavior as nervous attempts to deal with their daughter's interracial relationship. But as the weekend progresses, a series of increasing disturbing discoveries lead him to a truth that he never could have imagined. So my poll quote for Get Out is, it's definitely Meet the Parents meets The Wicker Man. It's definitely got this whole cultish thing going on with the Meet the Parents thing. Get Out, I seen recently. I thought it was tremendous. I thought the acting was good. I mean, definitely you have the elevatedness to this one, and I feel like Jordan Peele is one of these directors that has made a name for himself, starting with that movie. And these movies are now being used for, you know, ideas for movies that people are doing now. People are being influenced by it. I mean, Get Out is one of them.
Meeting families and taking road trips. Don't come back all bougie, man. Come back, get your damn pants up to your damn stomach.
So you guys coming up from the city?
Yeah, we're just heading up for the weekend.
Can I see your license, please?
He wasn't driving.
I didn't ask who was driving. I asked to see his ID.
Call me Dean and you hug me, my man.
So how long has this been going on, this thing? We hired Georgina and Walter to help care for my parents. When they died, I couldn't bear to let them go.
Do you smoke in front of my daughter?
I'm gonna quit. She'd take care of that for you. How? Hypnosis. I'm good, actually.
Are you ready for this?
I'm back in beat.
So look, I go do my research. Apparently, a whole bunch of brothers been missing in this suburb. But it's cool. Bro, how you not scared of this, man?
Good to see another brother around here.
Chris was just telling me how he felt much more comfortable with my being here.
Get out. Sorry, man.
Get out! Yo!
And then Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster, released in January of 2018. When the matriarch of the Graham family passes away, her daughter and grandchildren begin to unravel cryptic and increasingly terrifying secrets about their ancestry, trying to outrun the sinister fate they have inherited. This movie stars Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, and Gabriel Byrne, and Ann Dowd. Hereditary could have been nominated for Academy Awards and wasn't. This movie seems to be extremely popular in the horror community. I did watch it over the last couple of years. It's very, very... I really liked it. I could see why it is, you know, beloved so much by horror fans. Toni Collette's acting in this one is amazing. She's done a tremendous job. These are only 7 and 8 years old. They are already influencing the genre, you know. And I think with these most recent ones, the ones in this last category, we'll have to see over time how well they stay influential. But I feel like these three, Babadook, Get Out, and Hereditary, are the leads in the elevated category.
Care of me.
You don't think I'm gonna take care of you?
But when you die,
And she wasn't altogether there. At the end.
I don't like this. Dad, I don't like this.
What's happening? Enough! Don't you ever raise your voice at me! I am your mother! Please stop! Mom, what's happening? Make it stop! Make it stop!
I just don't want to put any more stress on my family.
Well, this is gonna wrap everything up. I would say, you guys, thanks for sticking with me. This was a very big list, a very all-encompassed list of movies that I feel have been influential throughout all time in horror in many ways. Iconic, influential, popularity, the whole nine. Before I wrap this up totally, I would love to hear from you guys, honestly, in the comments, if you think I've missed anything. Because if I have, it's either because I haven't seen it, or maybe I didn't feel it was worthy to be on this list for whatever reason. But I'd love for someone to put in the comments a movie that I have never seen, because the first thing I'm gonna do is probably go watch it. Because I'd like to know, you know, what influential horror movie have I missed? You know, I've been a horror fan for a long time. I love horror movies, I love scary movies, and I just think that anytime someone can recommend to me a good horror movie that I've missed, I'm gonna jump on that. Thanks again, guys. Please like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell, all that jazz.